Good evening, David. I'm going to be admitting people and verifying their identity. Can you confirm you're David Micknick? David? Are you able to hear me, David? Mr. Micknick? Mr. Mitnick. Mr. Mitnick. Good evening, Mrs. Jenkins.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. Mr. Mitnick, I was unable to hear you. Could you check and see that, make sure you're not muted, your microphone's turned on? Tasha, can you confirm that you hear my audio? Tasha Gardner? David, I still haven't been able to hear you. There you go. David?
Yes, John.
Oh, thank you, sir. I just want to confirm that we can hear you.
Okay.
All right. We'll be admitting people one by one so we can confirm who they are.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Mr. Napier? Mr. Napier?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. If Terry, we have it set so if your video is not on, you will not be on the display.
We're getting already close to 7 o'clock, so let's
Say that again.
I'm getting some feedback from you, Terry.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
All right. I'm going to mute you for the moment.
The opinion of the breakout group with respect to.
Is that better?
Yes, sir. And if you want to turn your video off, you can.
I don't know how.
At the very bottom of your display, you should have an option that says start video or stop video.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Keisha, are you with us? Mr. Riddick? Mr. Riddick? Can you unmute and so we can verify you and bring your camera so you're in view? Thank you, sir. Can I get you to unmute your microphone? You'll need to do it on the computer in the, thank
You
you.
got
Sir.
me?
Perfect. Excellent.
Testing 2 1 2.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mrs. Mayo, please unmute. I want to verify you have your audio.
Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayo.
Okay.
We'll be having people join one by one so we can verify their identity. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Am I clear? Do I need my headphones?
You're fine, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Story, please turn on your video so we can verify your identity. Mrs. Story, can you please turn on your video so we can verify your identity?
I'm working on it.
Thank you.
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. I'm bringing people one by one so we can verify each person.
Yep.
Dr. Brown? Dr. Brown?
Yes.
All right, if you would like, you can turn your video off. I have it set so the non-video participants will be hidden. Just unmute when you're ready to speak.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Lawson Davenport, can I verify you're on with us?
I am here.
Thank you, Maria. And if board members, if you'll leave your camera on during the meeting, so the public will all see who's there and verify identity. Antoinette, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
And if you would like to turn off your video, you can do that at this time.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Branch? Dr. Branch?
Yes.
Okay, if you would like, you can turn your video off. Then you won't be part of the display on the channel.
Okay, thank you.
Unmute when you're ready to speak. Thank you.
So I'm in, but how do I?
Are you in, Tasha?
But how do, tell me this. How do I get to my main screen? I want to exit this screen so I can look at the.
You want to do what?
Nothing. I can follow along in my book.
Oh, you want to take a look at the agenda?
I'll follow along in my
You sure?
book. Yeah, because I don't.
Tasha, your mic is unmuted.
Oops, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Dr. Brooks Buck, can I get you to verify your identity?
Yes, I'm
Hey.
Dr. Brooks Buck. I'm here.
Thank you, ma'am.
You are now?
Dr. Gordon,
Hey, John, Ms. Byram can't get in.
I'm getting ready to let her in.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Gordon, can I verify you connected?
I am
You're
connected,
muted,
sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Bear with us, folks. We have at least 3 more people to join us.
While we're waiting, is there anyone that happened to have a hard copy of the agenda that I could borrow?
I'll bring you one in just a moment, Mr. Riddick.
Thank you.
And we are streaming live, folks, just to be aware. I have one if you'll take it to Mr. Thank you. Mrs. Byram, can you unmute?
Can you hear us?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, you're all set and ready to go.
Everybody's accounted for?
Almost. I got 2 more people to join.
Okay, we're ready almost.
Mr. Waller, you're with us. Can you unmute, please, sir? Mr. Waller, you're still muted.
Unmuted.
Mr. Waller?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Last 2 are coming in just here. I got Wendy. Can I get you to verify you can hear us and hear us? And Suzanne. Dr. Rice?
Yes.
Thank you. If you'd like to turn your video off, you can. Wendy Forsman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can hear us. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Byram, everybody who has joined the meeting and has been verified. The live stream is conducting on YouTube as we speak.
Okay, we're ready to go now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to turn the screen share off here and then you can begin.
Okay. The meeting will please come to order, and I'll ask Ms. Story if she will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Unmute. Okay, ready? Let's stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
God,
Indivisible,
with liberty and justice
justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Story. First, we have the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I would like to ask that we remove the certification of closed meeting from the agenda.
Second. Is that a motion? Are you making that a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I move that we remove the certification of closed meeting from our agenda.
Second.
Board members,
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Mayo,
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick,
Yes.
Board Member Riddick,
Yes.
Board Member Story,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck,
Yes.
Board Chair Byram,
Yes.
motion passed.
Where did you go?
Next, we have public speakers on agenda topics, and I believe the clerk has some letters to read.
Yes, ma'am. The deputy clerk will begin reading the letters. I will read the statement first. It is the intent of the school board to ensure that the affairs of the school board be conducted in an open and orderly manner, that all persons desiring to address the board are afforded an opportunity to do so. Any persons addressing the board shall confine their comments to matters germane to the business of the school board. 2, refrain from words or statements which from their usual construction and common acceptance are construed as insults intended to incite violence or breach of the peace. 3, refrain from obscenity, vulgarity, or other breach of respect. 4, comply with the time limit for public comment as set by the board, which can be up to 5 minutes unless the board, through the exercise of its discretion, decides to allow less than 5 minutes for public comment. Refrain from cumulative or repetitive remarks. And 6, refrain from making any comments regarding any pending student discipline or employee grievance matters. The appropriate forum for such matters is the applicable administrative hearing provided by state law or where appropriate court proceedings. The school board welcomes comments from the public as appropriate. Board members will listen to public comments but will not comment unless granted permission by the chair. The chairman or other presiding officers shall preserve decorum and shall decide all questions of public order subject to appeal to the board. At the request of the chairman, a city police officer shall act as sergeant at arms at all board meetings. The officer shall, under the discretion of the chairman or other presiding officer, have charge of the board chamber, the board conference room, the waiting areas and corridors adjacent thereto, and the school administration building, and shall prevent disorder or interruption of the business of the board.
I believe the first letter is from Amy and Andrew Ostrana.
Sir, madam, I hope this email finds you well. I would like for my email to be read at the next school board meeting as I am unable to be present. I am including my Bureau school board member on this email as well. Suffolk City School Board, I'm writing to you, like most parents, to express our displeasure and concern with the lack of decision and planning for our children's potential return to school. It has been known since March that at some point children will need to resume in-person instruction. While that date was not and still not set, it was a clearly and obvious scenario. Why in over 6 months have you not become prepared? Why did we parents spend 5 to 6 hours watching your meeting a few weeks ago where you were asked the most basic and simple questions? We watched you ask the teacher how she plans to social distance within her classroom. How has that question not already been answered? What have you been working on for 6 months? It is not a teacher's job to determine how they will social distance the students in their classroom during a global health emergency. While I do not have a teaching degree, I feel strongly there is no lessons covering this. So while it's not the teacher's job to develop the plan, it's yours. Our elected officials whom are put in place to make these types of decisions. Teachers are doing the best they can with the current situation, and I presume are as frustrated as the parents. I am sympathetic to the situation that families with high-risk members are in and their desire to not return to in-person instruction, and fully support that option for those families. But the option for those who do not wish to return should be theirs as well, particularly for special education students or those with IEP/504s in place who are not receiving the services or accommodation they desperately need to thrive. I have 3 children in Suffolk schools, and they are all struggling. And to be honest, they are miserable with the current school situation, regardless of how fun we try to make it. Our family is at the point where I will not sacrifice my children's happiness by forcing them into a program they are so unhappy doing. Our assignments will be late, some will be missing, but their happiness comes first. My children have learned nothing except that they hate school when they used to wake up every day excited to learn and go to school. Now, the two in elementary school cry every day when they have to log on for live sessions or complete assignments virtually. How have thousands of school districts around the country developed a plan and taken action, and we are still left wondering what's next for our children? From outside appearances, it seems as if all efforts were put together developing an online virtual learning environment and planning for that scenario and completely ignoring in-person scenarios. You spend so much time planning how to make virtual learning a success that it almost appears as if you never stop to ask yourself if you should, if that was the right way to be going about this. Now we are behind the curve and the children are suffering. Some school systems have been back to school since August, yet we still have no plan. Are we starting back to school? How many days a week? What are the hours? These are the questions parents need answers to in order to plan what the next quarter will look like. For families with two working parents or those single parents, this quarter has been nothing but a disaster. My children can sit in a restaurant in Suffolk City with no mask and eat dinner. We can walk around a store. They could take ballet classes and do sports, some of which are done with other children from the same school. Alphabets. They can sit in a classroom in that very same building. Are the children expected to advance to the next grade level next year? Because that will create a whole new scenario of problems with the lack of education they are receiving this year. You must do better in your roles. Don't sit around waiting for someone else to make a plan and present it to you. Take action. Earn your elected positions or give them up. We moved to Suffolk this year because we heard it was the best school district. So far, we're experiencing nothing but disappointment. Please pass my remarks to the board or make them available at the next board meeting. Thank you for taking the time to read my thoughts. Amy and Andrew Ostrander.
Thank you, Ms. Nick. Next, we have Gretchen Jones.
Good evening. This is my second time here speaking. My comments were cut short last time, as I know they will be tonight. So with all due respect, I plan on being straightforward and blunt here. You held a special meeting that was 3 hours long just to hear concerns from the parents in regards to the very urgent matter of changing the name of Pioneer Elementary, but not so urgent matter of our kids' education is not worthy of such a meeting. In what world does that make sense? I know your minds are already made up just as they were at the last meeting, but how can that be? How can you have decided on such an important decision without taking our opinion into consideration? It is not what you think is best for our kids. It is what your constituents want that should matter. You need to understand that I want my kids back in school. In fact, 2/3 of us want our kids back. The numbers have supported sending them back weeks ago against the matrix you provided. So why aren't we in school? The number of COVID cases are minimal with 0 deaths and 0 hospitalization in our area. Private schools are back in session along with many public schools. So why aren't we back in school? Kids and parents are begging for our kids to be back, both for the academic and social well-being. Our kids are suffering every single day. Do you all have any idea what it's like to have conversation daily with our kids trying to explain why you will not let them back in school? The answer is no. You all have no idea. If I am correct, only one of you even have kids in the Suffolk public school system. It must be pretty easy to sit up there and make decisions that do not directly affect your life in any way. My son's grades are slipping and he desperately wants to return to the classroom. He is in the engineering program at Nansemond River. Do you know how hard it is to learn engineering online? What is happening to their futures? How far behind would they be when you finally decide to let them back in school? Have you considered sending the Project Lead the Way kids back to school? They are small groups and it would be good to test the process of sending kids back. They need hands-on learning, not virtual. Have you considered putting cameras in each classroom? The teachers and kids that want and need to be in the classroom can come into the building. And for the ones that do not want to or cannot come in, can live stream the classes. Do you all need help installing them? We can help. Do you need us to donate hand sanitizer, soap, and masks? We can help. Have you asked the public if we are willing to do our part? Because we are here to help. We are willing to do what it takes. Why aren't you? COVID is not going anywhere. It is here to stay. So instead of doing everything humanly possible to keep kids out of school, why are you not trying everything in your power to send them back? Suffolk was given a large amount of money to help with resources and items needed to make the transition easier. Other schools have done it. Let's look at their models. It will take some work, but aren't our kids worth it? Stop holding our kids' education hostage and send our kids back to school. Thank you for your time, Gretchen Jones.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Next, we have Chelsea Southard.
Dear members of the school board, my name is Chelsea. I'm a military spouse and mother of 3 children. We recently PCS'd here from Jacksonville, Florida, October 16th. My oldest is in kindergarten. He started in-person school at Abe's Park Elementary School, August 20th. My son was in preschool last year until spring break when school was closed due to COVID. He didn't understand why he wasn't able to finish school, and he became depressed. He was so excited for the new school year. He didn't even mind wearing the face mask or that they had to eat lunch in their classroom. He was happy to learn and to be amongst his peers. He even said, "Mom, I hope the coronavirus doesn't stop school again." Well, you can imagine his disappointment when we moved here and he learned that he wouldn't be attending in-person school anymore. Virtual learning was not meant for 5 and 6-year-olds. Not only do they not have the attention span, but they can't read to navigate the software independently. I was very doubtful of virtual learning, but was willing to give it a try in hopes that they would return to school shortly. When I heard my son's PAL test, I realized virtual learning is not an option. In kindergarten, they learn phonics and phonemic awareness. He recently was given a PALS test where both of these skills were being assessed to see which learning group he would be placed in. He was struggling to understand some of the sounds the teacher was making. I myself was struggling to understand if the teacher was saying T or D along with other sounds and words. This makes me fearful that he may not be learning to his full potential because of internet lag, etc. There are so many schools across the nation that have successfully allowed kids in the classroom all year without issues. There are tons of excuses, but no excuses are acceptable. If there is a will, then there's a way. Kids can and will wear masks. Kids can eat lunch in their classrooms. Buses can have assigned seats. Half the parents will still choose virtual learning, and that's okay. I feel we should be given the choice whether our kids learn in person or virtual. These kids need better than what they are receiving. Please keep them in mind when you cast your vote tonight. Thank you for your time, Chelsea Southard.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Next, we have Katrina Cotton.
I don't have a letter from her, ma'am.
Ms. Cotton has rescinded her letter.
Okay. Yolanda Greggs.
Dear members of the Suffolk School Board, after watching several teachers come before you with their virtual teaching experience, I would like to share mine with you. I have absolutely the sweetest class. Every morning, students beat me to our classroom ready to learn, and every time we take a break or end the day, we say this long goodbye like we aren't going to see each other again in just a few minutes or the next day. I absolutely adore my students. They are so cute. They call me ma'am. At the beginning of the school year, I told them I spend their daily agenda at 8 a.m. on Fridays. And if I am even 1 minute late, I have a student who emails me to let me know he's waiting. I have another student who writes his entire email in the subject line. The cutest of all is the student who writes Miss Greggs in an email like she's calling my name to get my attention. I write back yes, and then she asks her question. They're so adorable. We've been in the trenches together. There were days in September when I have to stop a lesson because I had to guide them through creating a text box or attaching work to an assignment or other little things I thought would be easy. One student was in present mode, and trying to figure that out was an adventure. 8 weeks in, we're now rolling. We've mastered Canvas and Google and everything in between. Is virtual teaching / learning perfect? No, but teaching / learning wasn't perfect when we were in a physical classroom. The complaints were just different. Every day, I look forward to seeing my students online. We talked about COVID once. Some said they were afraid of catching it. They don't ask about returning to school, and I think they would miss me as their teacher and miss each other because most of them have been together since 3rd grade. In the time we've been together, I've watched them grow, and I'm in awe. I have one student who was overwhelmed early, and now she's confident and doesn't hesitate to ask questions. I can't imagine not spending the rest of the school year with these students. This is the absolute sweetest class I've ever had. Sincerely, Yolanda Greggs.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Next, we have Crystal Dillon.
Madam Chair, I did not receive the letter from Ms. Dillon.
Okay. Next, we have Noah Kent.
I am writing this letter, this as I know I will not have time to speak about everything. I wish to speak at the meeting. The first thing I would like to talk about is classroom organization. I have noticed that my daughter's 7th grade teacher placed all assignments in a different area. This makes it hard for students to know where to find assignments and hard for parents to catch children up that have to work during the day. I am not sure what she needs to do until it is missing in Hack. Other teachers name an assignment differently in Hack than they do in Canvas. There is a tool in Canvas that alerts students something is missing by placing a red minus or a green check next to the assignment. Only one of my daughter's teachers is using this tool. After class, my host teacher places the day's assignments in the announcement. This is very helpful to students and parents who might have missed the class. I believe that all teachers should place assignments in the same area, use the check or minus tool to alert students of missing assignments, and place the day's assignments in the announcement. Also, putting new content at the top will greatly assist students and parents. This will streamline and create more success for students, teachers, and parents. The second thing I would like to talk about is mental health. I have spoken to many teachers, parents, and students who feel their mental health is compromised. I also speak for myself when I talk about this. I am a mother of 2 who works full-time and goes to college full-time. Most days I have to choose between my college work and whether I'm going to help my children. Since my son is younger, he is neglected severely in the areas of education. My daughter has much more extensive classes and does not apply herself well at home learning virtually. Due to these issues, as well as the lack of organization I mentioned above, the mental health of our citizens is at stake. It is very important if we are to remain virtual that we offer mental health resources to our parents, teachers, and students, as well as become more organized and effective at communication. As a parent, there are multiple teachers that do not email me back or give lackluster replies that do not help. There are some that do not come to their remediation rooms. Alternatively, there are teachers that go above and beyond, and I appreciate them. My situation is unique in that I understand teachers are stressed because I am teaching as well as being a parent. However, I find lack of communication unacceptable. All of these things can be improved and thus improve the mental health of everyone involved. Finally, I would like to talk about my idea to return to school. I could be wrong about statistics. However, it appears that 50% wish to return to school. If that is the case, I think teachers who want to work should be allowed to have their students back. The ones that want to remain virtually can teach the students that they do not wish to come back. This will give choice and further mental health improvement of everyone involved. In a class of 28, if only 14 come back, we can distance them in the classroom. I want a classroom and will gladly take students if I'm hired in January. The only downfall to my plan is enough teachers might not feel ready to come back. My hope is that I am wrong. Alternatively, I did speak with teachers that do not believe we can go back. They worry about the bathroom spreading the virus and a super spreader event happening. Other teachers are very concerned about the hybrid model. I have seen several teachers across the United States resign due to the model having them do 2 jobs for one. If we would be hybrid, my proposal is to allow teachers to choose which proposal best fit their needs. My choice for teachers is going to result in less resignations. We truly need as many teachers as we can, and if we let them have some control, I believe we will have happier staff. I am sure you are already aware that attendance for some schools is 50% or below. The loss of education for these students will have them long-term impact. The social economic status of students will be a big factor in this. Children going hungry, experience abuse at home, and feeling isolated will have long-term mental health impacts. Thank you very much for your time in reading this. Thank you for doing your job and taking us citizens into account. Also, I was so sorry to hear on your homes was vandalized after the first decision to stay closed. I'm sorry someone felt the need to retaliate in that way. You are appreciated, and please stay safe, Ms. Kent.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. No other letters, Madam Clerk?
No, ma'am, there are no other letters.
Okay. Next, we go to reports by the superintendent, Dr. Gordon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ms. Antoinette Ward, who will go over the slide deck. showing some highlights of alumni and other folks. And then I'll come back with calendar of special events and a couple other comments. So,
All right, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. As always, I'm excited to present the news in our good news report tonight. Despite our challenges, we've had a lot of amazing stories to share. John, am I in charge of the slides or are you? All right, I'd like to start by recognizing Angela Spruill, the Nutritional Services Supervisor with our Food and Nutrition Services Department. With the help of her team, Ms. Spruill held the first ever SPS Nourishing Our Neighbors community event at Booker T. Washington Elementary School. In partnership with the Food Bank of Southeastern Virginia and the Eastern Shore, Nourishing Our Neighbors allowed Suffolk Public Schools to provide fresh produce to 400 families at no cost. Members of our Food and Nutrition Services team were out distributing the fresh broccoli, potatoes, and clementine for both staff and parents to enjoy. I would like to note that all of the produce was properly prepped and bagged separately, and produce stations were spaced properly according to social distancing guidelines. The Food and Nutritional Services Department was able to collect the following demographic data from the event. In total, we had 308 children, 308 adults ages 18 to 59, 108 adults ages 60 plus, and 196 total families. One of our SPS moms shared on our social media, on one of our social media platforms, that she used the fresh broccoli to make broccoli cheddar soup. The Food and Nutritional Services team is planning to add more produce item selections, so be on the lookout for the next Nourishing Our Neighbors events to be held on November 19th, December 17th, and January 21st. And we will be sending out an announcement next week for the event to be held on November 19th. All right, now we'd like to turn our attention to our Suffolk SPS student highlights. If you are a football fan and you watch Sunday Night Football, you may have heard the name Chuck Clark, number 36, called out for a game-winning touchdown. Chuck Clark is an SPS alumni and class of 2013 graduate from Kings Fork High School. He received a football scholarship to Virginia Tech and graduated with a degree in human development and a minor in sociology. Before his NFL career, Clark was listed as the number 29th prospect in Virginia by Rivals, a second-team Group AAA All-State selection by Virginia Preps and first-team All-Eastern Region selection. At defensive back, Chuck was the Southeastern District Defensive Player of the Year, both his junior and senior seasons, and he was a first-team All-Tidewater selection by the Virginian Pilot as a senior after picking off 4 passes, returning 3 of them for touchdowns. He has a 2-time All-Tidewater first-team selection, a first-team All-District defensive back, and second-team running back, and first-team All-757. It's a lot of accolades to list off. At Virginia Tech, he was a member of the 2014 All-ACC academic football team. Chuck earned All-ACC honorable mention for his performance during the 2016 season. Chuck was the first Tokie off the board in the 2017 NFL Draft, selected in the 6th round by the Baltimore Ravens as the safety position. And just to share a few fun facts about Chuck Clark, blueberry pancakes and blueberry donuts are 2 of his favorite foods. He and his wife welcomed their first child in October of 2019. And following football, Chuck would like to pursue a career working to help guide and counsel troubled teens. All right, so typically we recognize 1 alumni student, but tonight we have 3. However, before we move on to our next alumni, we want to recognize one of our current students, Jordan Hall, a junior from Nansemond River High School, for being selected to the 2021 High School Honors Performance Series at Carnegie Hall in New York City. Jordan will be among selected vocalists from across the U.S. performing in June 2021. At Nansemond River, Jordan is a member of the Bella Voce Nansemond River Selected Treble Choir directed by Jolene Neighbors, the fine arts facilitator for Suffolk Public Schools. All right, awesome. So Brandon Lowe, a Nansemond River alumni, is recognized tonight for his outstanding performance during Game 2 of the Major League Baseball World Series, where he hit 2 home runs for the Tampa Bay Rays. Prior to joining Major League Baseball, Lowe helped lead the Nansemond River Warriors to a regular season district title. He was selected a district and region player of the year, first team all-region and first team all-district. In 2011, Lowe was awarded the Perfect Game USA preseason All-American honorable mention. During the 2020 regular season, Lowe led the Rays in 52 hits, 14 home runs, and 37 runs battled. He was selected as the Tampa Bay Rays MVP. All right, and sticking with our sports theme that we have here tonight, we highlight our next alumni athlete, Christopher or Chris Allen, a 2018 graduate of Kings Fork High School. He is currently a junior at an HBCU, a historically Black college university, the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, where he's majoring in criminal justice. Chris started playing t-ball for the Bennett Creek Little League at 4 years old, and later went on to play second baseman for the Kings Fork Varsity Bulldogs during his sophomore, junior, and senior years. As a freshman, he played on junior varsity. He's the first player from Kings Fork to attend and play for a Division I school, although currently the team is not playing due to COVID-19. At Kings Fork, Chris says that his favorite teacher was Dennis Tysinger, who used to say, "I can lead you to water, but I can't make you drink." At UMES, Chris has remained on the Dean's List since freshman year. He is also a member of the National Honor Society, and his dream job after college is to become a special agent for the FBI. And this one's a little personal because this is actually my little brother. So, Chris Allen. All right, so now, sticking with Kings Fork, we want to recognize 2 siblings, Michelle and TJ Payton, who are members of the Nansemond River Preservation Alliance and NRPA, Environmental Education and Water Quality Committee. So studies have shown that Suffolk waterways are seeing more pollution as our city's population increases. Michelle and PJ have assisted in conducting sampling and monitoring at the Nansemond River and have made appearances in the NRPS educational video on YouTube. And I just want to share a snippet of their video with you all tonight. And John, can you start that at 2 minutes and 12 seconds?
pH, much like testing water in a swimming pool.
Oysters thrive in a salty environment. Too little or too much and the oysters won't grow. pH should be in a neutral zone.
Then comes analyzing for dissolved oxygen levels and water temperature. A sensor is lowered into the water and results read on a meter. Marine life needs healthy levels of oxygen to grow. Water temperature also impacts the growth rate.
Next, a weighted black and white disc is lowered into the water to determine the clarity or turbidity of the water. The clarity reading is the depth when the disc disappears from view underwater. If the clarity level is low, this means that sediment levels are high and sunlight penetration into the water is diminished. Underwater grasses, beneficial to wildlife, need a certain level of sunlight to grow.
Finally, at each of the 8 sites, atmospheric conditions and air temperature are recorded. After docking the boat, the samples are tested for E. coli bacteria using citizen science methods. Bacteria levels determine the status of the waterway and whether it is healthy enough for shellfish harvesting or recreational swimming.
In addition to collecting the samples, the crew monitors the shoreline for evidence of potential violations of the Chesapeake Bay Preservation and Wetlands Act, which are then reported to city and state agencies for investigation.
Every other year, the NRPA Water Quality Committee releases the State of the Nansemond River Report and Report Card to inform residents, businesses, government agencies, and elected officials about the status of our river.
So how do we know that the water quality of the Nansemond River and its tributaries is getting worse? Constant testing.
The NRPA data supplements the city's own data and that from the Virginia Department of Health, Division of Shellfish Safety. Annually, the state agency reviews the sampling data and determines which waterways to open or close. Currently, both Bennett's Creek and Chuckatuck Creek and most of the Nansemond River are closed to harvesting oysters and other shellfish due to high bacteria levels. More and more sections of the river are being closed as bacteria levels increase.
Thanks, Michelle.
Okay, so you can stop it right there. Thank you, John. So there you can see the students kind of talking a little bit about what they do for the committee. So Nansemond should be very proud of their students. Okay, so our SPS Teacher Spotlight. Chelsea Culp, our supervisor of professional learning, along with several members of her team, have created a new initiative to highlight teachers from each of their content areas who have gone above and beyond. The first edition of their monthly Teacher Spotlight was created for the month of October to highlight the following individuals. Jamie Barksdale for making learning fun and doing what's best for her students. Audrey Casaza for creating a culture of warmth and collaboration in her online classroom. Larry Clayton for serving as an excellent model for social and emotional learning. Megan Farba and Tracy Halverson. This dynamic duo is recognized for continually collaborating to create engaging and relevant learning experiences to gifted students. Latricia Herring for creating engaging and rigorous online lessons that get her students excited about learning Spanish. Alexandria Parker for providing resources for staff and students from the Technology Education Program. Kara Robinson for developing engaging lessons to her students while teaching remotely. And Christopher Stadler for being innovative with videos and online lessons for K-5, giving them an online community that they can continue to progress in their musical knowledge. So definitely congratulations to those teachers named. And lastly, we of course.
Ms. Ward.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I want to congratulate you. Thank you for that excellent spotlight on our students and our employees. I love that spotlight on teachers.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, you're very welcome. And we definitely plan on being able to provide that for you going forward. So we're excited to see who will be highlighted for the month of November.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so moving into our SPS Funds and Grants, and this section will wrap up our good news report. But John, can you move on to the next slide, please? All right, so the Suffolk Foundation Women's Impact Fund presented a check for $640 to fund CCAP, our College and Career Academy at Pruden, their adult education nurse aid scholarships for the 2021 calendar year. SPS received funds to support training for school-based mental health professionals through the VDOE State Superintendent Federal School Mental Health Grant. And Suffolk Public Schools was awarded the OBC Foundation grant in the amount of $44,432 for the Streaming 3 Early Start Program.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Ward, for all of that. And we want to make sure that our school community and our school board recognizes that part of the reason why we want to show what our alumni are doing is also to help motivate our current students. If it's athletics or academics, I really love the fact that we had students that were doing some analytical data when it came to studying the biology of a lot of our waterways around here. And some conversations that Mr. Riddick has brought up in public, you can see that we really had a strong focus on applying for grants. The mental health grant that we got is in partnership with the Virginia Department of Education. We were only one of 4 school divisions to get that grant. That's an outstanding feather in our cap for the work. And I'm sure that Dr. Rice and Ms. Whitley, we will use those funds wisely. As we go on to the last section here of calendar for special events, I did want to take a quick brief moment just to thank Delegate Clint Jenkins and our school board member Karen Jenkins for setting up a meeting with John Littlefield and I and executives from Spectrum Charter as we're trying to find some ways to be a little bit more efficient and expedite improving broadband specifically in the Holy Neck and Whaleyville boroughs. And so we have a package that we're working on. Mr. Littlefield's kind of leading this initiative for us to try to see what we can do to potentially put more broadband and internet in our homes. Hopefully we'll be able to bring something back to the board in a month or two to give you some new information on that. As we know, the lack of broadband in the city of Suffolk is always going to be a focus. For our calendar of special events, today starts American Education Week, which is going to be November 12th to the 20th. Next Tuesday, bring your legislator to school. We will be at John F. Kennedy Middle School with a 9 a.m. sharp start. That's on November 17th. Parent-teacher conferences are on November 20th. This will also be the day that we have our report cards and early dismissal. Our fall break, otherwise known as the Thanksgiving holiday, would be November 25th to the 27th. The month of November is also Native American Heritage Month, which is very important for this region. We always want to make sure that we celebrate the Native American heritage as a part of our history, not only for the city of Suffolk, but the entire United States of America. And our next school board meeting is going to be December 10th. And one last thing to add to the calendar of special events, tomorrow is district-wide School Spirit Day. So we're going to ask for all of our board members to please make sure that you put on your fresh SPS gear, take pictures, send it in to our Facebook pages. We also want all of our schools to be represented. We want to make sure that we are showing all of the great school spirit that we have in the Suffolk Public Schools. And this is one of our other aspects of building the best SPS. Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes the report from the superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Next, we have the consent agenda. This is an action item.
Madam Chair, I want to move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next, under unfinished business, educate and innovate fall reopening plan update, October 23rd, 2020. This is an action item.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is a carryover from the school board retreat, as the first part of that meeting was to review health data and the instructional plan for the Educate and Innovate plan. As you all know, the original start date from this plan was November 16th for elementary students and November 30th for secondary students. However, due to the fact that we are discussing this today on November 12th, this is no longer my recommendation to move forward. And I will ask the board to vote down the Educate and Innovate Update Fall Reopening Plan dated for October 23rd, 2020.
Yep. May I ask a question?
Dr. Buck?
Yes. Is this the, and I guess I need to ask it of you, Madam Chair, or of Mr. Waller, is this the vote that we have to revote because this is the vote that Board Member Story asked us to revote? This one on the 23rd, or is that no longer a question? I see we have this twice on the agenda. This is the old vote that we were to revote, and then there's a second question.
Yes,
if
ma'am.
we're putting those together, are we putting those together now?
Now, this
Or
is
is that a moot point at this point?
yes, ma'am. This is the carryover from the October 23rd meeting that is basically the revote from the tie that we had at the October 23rd retreat. This is the
So
reason.
we have two votes that we have to do. So this is a revote. So if this is a revote, then we have to do the original vote. We have to do the original motion. Am I correct in assuming that? Is Mr. Waller there? Am I correct in assuming we have to do the original motion and we have to vote that? And then we'll go on to the next one for the next date.
That is correct.
Okay. Would someone read the original?
Whoa.
Is that what we're doing?
Wait a minute, I have a correction, please.
Yes,
Yes,
Ms.
if I have
Ford.
questions, go right ahead.
Dr. Buck indicated that I asked for a revote, and that is not the case. Please don't put that in the minutes. I was not at the meeting.
Madam Chair, can we just move forward whether we got the vote or not?
Oh,
Yes.
okay, well then, we don't need to do anything with that. We just need to move forward then. So we don't need to do anything with that.
No,
need to
no,
vote
that's a
on
point of order. The law states that we have to come back to the next meeting and have a vote. So in order for us to be in compliance with the law, Attorney Waller, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to either vote the original motion that was a tie up or down. Dr. Gordon's recommendation is that we vote the original motion down. That will keep us in compliance with the law. And then if there's a new motion or a new recommendation, we could address that after we vote the one that was a tie up or down. After
That's
that one.
what I meant. That's what I meant, Mr. Reddick. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am. We're on the
correct?
same page.
I think Mr. Waller is having some technical difficulties, Madam Vice Chair and Madam Chair, as I don't see his icon on the screen at this time. But what Mr. Riddick stated is the correct procedure based on our prior discussions.
Okay, so then if Miss Gardner would read the original question, then we can vote that up or down, and then we can go on to the next one.
Okay, the original motion, Member Mitnick moved and Member Mayo seconded the motion to adopt the Educate and Innovate plan as outlined today. Hold on.
That we would begin on.
I'm going back to my notes, I'm sorry.
As a reminder for the board, the original motion had us starting elementary on November 16th, secondary on November 30th. Due to the short time frame, that is the reason why I'm asking for the board to vote this action item down.
Okay. So that's what we're voting on now. Is that
So
correct?
would you repeat your motion, Dr. Buck?
That's Mr. Mitnick's motion that we're voting down now, and then we need to do a new motion.
So Madam Chair, basically if our clerk could just reread the initial motion, and then we would just have to do pretty much a revote on the initial motion that we did at the last meeting that resulted in a tie.
I need a moment to pull that initial motion. I'm sorry, I do not have that information in front of me.
Mr. Mitnick, do you remember?
Mr. Mitnick?
At that point in the meeting, I made a motion to approve the Educate, Innovate Fall Reopening Plan dated 10/23/20.
Okay, and Mrs. Mayo seconded it.
And Madam Vice Chair, if I can insert here, in reviewing the minutes, Mr. Mitnick moved and Member Mayo seconded the motion to adopt the Educated Innovative Plan as outlined today. Then the roll call vote was aye 3, nay 3. Ms. Riddick and Brooks Buck were nay, 0 abstained, and the motion was 3-3 due to a tie vote.
Right, but we have to vote again, as I understand it, allowing Mrs. Story to vote.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, So that's what we have to do now, right?
Correct.
Okay, so are we ready to vote? Is that what we're asking? So call for the question.
Madam Clerk, will you read the motion by Mr. Mitnick again?
The motion was Mr. Mitnick moved and Member Mayo seconded the motion to adopt the Educate and Innovate plan as outlined today, which was the November
16th.
November 16th, 2020 recommendation.
Okay, so I've called for the question.
I second it.
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
No.
Board Member Mayo?
No.
Board Member Mitnick?
No.
Board Member Riddick?
No.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Board Member Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
No.
Board Chair Byram?
No.
Motion failed.
Okay,
Now-
next, excuse me. Next,
Now
we
the-
have Educate and Innovate Fall Reopening Plan Update, 11/12/2020.
Yes, ma'am. And at this time, we're going to pull up our slide deck. You will see information from Dr. Rice, our Chief of Administrative Services, and Dr. Branch, our Chief Academic Officer. There will also be information presented by Terry Napier, our Director of Facilities and Planning. We tried to address some things as well as to update the health and data metrics moving forward from our last discussion on this on October 23rd. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Rice. Dr. Rice?
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. So this is, again, a recap on many things and updates on others. And as always, we are going to start with the health metrics. So next slide, please. This should look very familiar to you. This is the same chart that I've been updating every week. As you remember, we do get these updates from the Virginia Department of Health every Monday. Since we last met on October 23rd, you can see that we have had 2 weeks with slight spikes and upticks, both in the Eastern region and here in the city of Suffolk. So what we have done is moved from a moderate range into the red zone, if you will, or high. And so the uptick there is showing us that we need to monitor this very carefully, because the recommendation that we're going to make to you this evening, again, could be a fluid date based on this data, because we want to ensure that it is going to be safe to reopen for our students. And as we have mentioned to you numerous times, we are looking for both of these metrics to be in the orange and or yellow. So we are going to monitor this data. We will see the next set of data on Monday the 16th. And then one more time, we'll see it on the 23rd. So we'll be looking at both of those sets of data very carefully. Next slide. This, ladies and gentlemen, is just a recap of what I shared with you previously. This is just what we gave to our parents, and this is the results again. 64% of our parents selected the hybrid or face-to-face version for their children for instruction, and 36% opted to remain online for the remainder of the second 9 weeks. So that's just a recap, nothing new there. The new recommendation, as you can see, is a slight change in dates. What we've done is shifted our reopening plan for the elementary students to be now November 30th. Once again, that is based on the health metrics determining that it will be safe to do so. The elementary students, the hybrid students, would come back 2 days a week, and they would be divided into 2 groups. One group would be on Monday and Wednesday, the other group Tuesday and Thursday. And as you recall, the other 3 days of the week for either group would be online learning continued. The second part of this recommendation is that we bring back the secondary students January 4th. Same model. Hybrid students would be broken into 2 groups, a Monday, Wednesday, and a Tuesday, Thursday. No changes to the CCAP. We still want those students to attend 1 day a week at their base school for core instruction, and then 2 days at CCAP. What we do plan on doing is providing information to the parents very shortly if we continue with the November 30th start date. So the plan right now is if we move forward with November 30th, that next Tuesday on the 17th, we will send home a mailing to all families that will include the following: the student expectations, the health and safety measures that we're going to use to mitigate, the arrival and departure procedures, the meal service plans, the parent acknowledgement form. And this is very, very important for parents to understand. There will be a link included in the mailing, but there will also be a hard copy. We must have that signed agreement from the parents before their children can attend the hybrid program. We must ensure that parents are going to be checking and screening their children at home prior to sending them to school. And then finally, we will be including a student schedule. So parents will know whether their child is in cohort A, Monday, Wednesday, or cohort B, the Tuesday, Thursday. So once we determine when we're mailing this, probably 8 to 10 days prior to the start of school, because again, that date could be fluid, we will also post all of that information on our Suffolk Public Schools website and on all of our social media accounts. So that is a recap for that portion. I will now turn it over to Mr. Napier, who's going to talk a little bit about the daily cleaning schedules.
May I ask a question, Dr. Rice?
Certainly.
Or whomever. Have we posted our matrix yet? I know when Dr. Wagner was there, he said that, and I think Dr. Gordon, you told us that the outbreak schedule was going to be posted somewhere. Have we posted ours yet?
No, we haven't released our COVID dashboard yet because we did not have enough students in school. It's going to be our plan, depending on whenever the board makes a decision on this, to have our COVID dashboard up at least 4 to 5 days in advance. It will basically give a total number of positive cases that we have throughout the school division. As you all know, we've already been sending letters home for any potential cases that we may have that may be high risk for exposure, low risk for exposure. That is going to be something that we will release after the board makes a decision.
Okay, but is there a reason why we're not putting that data up now, since we do have students in school? We actually have students in school now. We have our teachers going to school every day. And so we're getting communications from people saying that they're getting communications. And of course, that leaves us as board members not knowing until we're hearing things from other people. So we need to be aware of what's going on.
Well, as you already know, Dr. Buck, anytime we have a positive case, I always make sure that I alert the school board before a letter goes out to the school community. And each letter has been the same for any school that has had an issue. You are correct that we do have students that are in school now. Those are our students that are in our specialized programs, with about 126 total that are in our schools, but they're not in all of our schools, which is part of the reason why we weren't going to release the dashboard until we had a plan set forth. Now, if it's the board's desire for us to move that timeline up to release the dashboard, that is something that we can definitely work on. Ms. Ward and Ms. Williford have been working on it. We're about 70 or 80% done with it, but we also wanted to make sure that we were going to include these health metrics, because in the end, as Dr. Rice stated, the health metrics are always going to be the things that really push our decisions on if we should stay virtual, go hybrid, or if we have to close. So that is something that we can do if that is the board's desire.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm asking is because you know, when we get communications, those things are things that people are concerned about, and then we get stuff, and we're trying to determine when we get. We want to make sure that people have accurate information, because we don't want people being concerned about information that is not accurate. And of course, if it's not public information, we don't share it. And we don't want people putting false information up, making people feel uncomfortable. So I think, and this is just my opinion, other board members may want to chime in, but it's just my opinion that if we go ahead and put the information up, the facts will be there, and we're dealing with facts better than dealing with people's imaginations. That's just the way I feel about it. I don't know if how other members feel.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Riddick.
I concur with Dr. Buck. I agree that we need to make all of that information available immediately if possible, because as a board member, I've been getting several calls and emails and messages through my political page with people having concerns, and there are a lot of misinformation out there, and it's creating problems where it shouldn't be. But then it will also shed light on why my decision has been the decision that it is. So I think we should move forward and go ahead and make that public.
Any other comment?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Jenkins.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly that we need to be transparent and let everyone know if we have cases in our school system. So they will, definitely not know who it is, but to give them a number of how many cases have we had, at least since September or in the last month. So they will have an idea. And yeah, that needs to be done immediately.
Anyone else?
Okay, Madam Chair, so that won't be a problem for us. As I said, we had already been working on our COVID dashboard. It's going to take a couple of more days just for the community engagement team and Nurse Williver to make sure that it is actually reporting the information we wanted to. So it's going to be our goal to try to have that up sometime next week.
That sounds good, yes.
We'll continue on with Mr. Napier right here, who's going to discuss a little bit about the disinfecting schedule for the buildings. Mr. Napier.
Good evening, everybody. What you are looking at on this slide is a sample custodial schedule that was developed by our custodial services supervisor, Mr. James Downs. And what you can see on the left-hand side of that column, he has put in some time frames and he's labeled them middle school, high school, elementary school, as you can see. And on the right, he has listed what he would consider primary expectations for the morning custodians when they get there during those timeframes each day. Now, as we look at this and go through this, this has already been given to head custodians with the understanding that if your building requires something different, and we know each building has unique situations on a daily basis, our head custodians have been given the authority to make adjustments to these timeframes and some of these tasks to make sure that what needs to be done in any particular building is done. But if you can look at that first line there, the first 2 hours of the custodial day, he has listed the things that he would expect to be done: inspecting buildings, opening classrooms, trash removal from grounds, currently assist with bus disinfecting as needed. And I will tell you on that point, we have been fortunate enough to acquire handheld sprayers for every school bus. And as soon as our transportation director equips her drivers with those, we will be pulling this task away from morning custodians so that they can have more time inside the building to handle whatever occurs in there. So breakfast and trash removal from classrooms and or the cafeteria. I know there's discussion amongst principals on how they're going to do this. Once they let us know that, we are going to set our buildings up in such a way that we can expedite breakfast trash removal either from classrooms or the cafeteria. We have bought 300 additional trash cans to be spread out for this purpose to make sure that we don't have students lining up around trash cans, that sort of thing. That's why you see a time frame of approximately 2 to 2.5 hours. I think under normal circumstances, it would not take that long to take care of breakfast trash removal, but we're anticipating some lengthy exercises here when it comes to removing trash, especially if we're using classrooms. So as you move down that list, you can see that we have inserted on this schedule from the 8:30 to 9:30 in middle school, that block, we are asking head custodians to make sure during that time frame that all group bathrooms in their building get spray disinfected. We have also purchased, in addition to our Titan sprayers, which we use at night to spray the entire building, we have purchased handheld sprayers that each custodial crew will have that will expedite these smaller disinfecting jobs, such as the bathrooms during the daytime, So we got that specifically so they could do this. We're expecting it to be done during the time frame that you see listed there. Then we move, after that, we move into the lunchtime period, which kind of looks just like the breakfast period because we think it is going to look just like the breakfast period. With one addition, we are asking our custodial crews to make sure that those schools that use the cafeteria, that we're cleaning and spray disinfecting the cafeteria tables, anything that students are touching in that cafeteria in between lunch shifts. We have asked the principals to make sure that we have time to do that. That does create a little bit of a challenge for the principals, given that they're going to have to spread their lunches out a little bit more than what they would normally like to. But that's what we're looking at doing in terms of lunchtime. Then in the afternoon, we once again go back into those restrooms for an hour and have our midday crew. At this point in the day, we have a few more custodians in the building. So they will be again doing the group restroom spray disinfectant, and they will also be beginning during that time, as you can see at the bottom. This is the midday and after school crew. That's when they move into the facility cleaning procedure that we've given them earlier, and that gets completed during the afternoon and evening hours, where we once again go and spray the entire building. So this is what we have put out to the head custodians. It is a guide at this point, but we're asking them to make sure that as they make adjustments to this, that they do so in a way that all of these tasks get completed. Any questions about that?
Any questions?
All right, thank you, Mr. Napier. We'll turn it over to Dr. Branch here to talk a little bit about our hybrid instructional models.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, School Board, and Dr. Gordon. Last time we shared with you that we had 3 recommended hybrid instructional models for the secondary levels. I wanted to take some time to go through each of the models that we are recommending for our teachers. And what we have done with these 3 separate models is given the teachers the option to choose which one they will do for which class. They do not have to choose one specifically. Initially, we had only recommended the hybrid 45, but now we have 3 options for them to choose from. One thing we do request is that when they choose, they do have to inform their administrator as well as the students and parents, and that is the model they will use for the duration of the second 9 weeks. So as you may remember, the hybrid 45 is when a 90-minute block is split, where the hybrid students who can also be considered your face-to-face students are being instructed during the first 45 minutes of the class, while the second half of the block is dedicated instructionally to the virtual students online. So the hybrid students will receive 20 to actually 35 minutes of direct instruction as well as guided practice on whatever the concept, with 5 to 10 minutes to transition and begin working on assignments and other practice, independent practice and online modules. The virtual students then will have the instruction by that same teacher, with anticipatory materials having already been provided to those students to prepare for their 45-minute block. Again, 20 to 35 minutes of direct instruction and guided practice will be dedicated to those students. If the students have questions, the teachers will have a virtual question document or tool so that they ensure that they answer those questions provided or given by the student. And that can be a help to both the hybrid students as well as the virtual students. Again, all of our students, hybrid and virtual, will have a Chromebook. And so those who are hybrid will be bringing their one-to-one SPS Connect device, their Chromebook, daily. Next slide, please. We also have the hybrid flipped, which you may be aware that the flipped classroom is not a new concept, but it's one that we are proposing or recommending for our teachers. And what it does is provide recorded instruction, direct instruction from our teachers prior to class. So the students would review that direct instruction, understand the concepts, ask any questions, and then prepare for engagement and applied collaborative practice with the teacher when they are in the classroom setting. So the recordings the teacher would do based on whatever the concept, they would have that in Canvas for the students to review prior to the class setting. And then they would be able to do guided practice activities. The teacher will be able to provide feedback, more extensive instruction if needed, applied practice. They will be able to practice with other students. And this allows teachers to have the hybrid and virtual students actually working sometimes in small groups. Again, they'll have their SPS Connect device. They'll be able to work in small groups on the information. It will not be, it doesn't have to be a separate setting. Both groups can be involved in this hybrid flipped. And then the last one, the hybrid sync. This is where, and teachers have asked about the possibilities of doing this. Teachers will be able to instruct their hybrid and virtual students simultaneously if they have the current technologies available. It does require that the teacher is in front of the computer while the students are in the class, the face-to-face students, the hybrid students, as well as those students virtually. They will have live direct instruction on their designated days. There's guided practice, review materials. They can do homework and classwork via Canvas on asynchronous learning days. Teachers are able to give direct feedback in real time through in-person and using the chat features. Although the class is simultaneous, the students can still work together because they can use some of the online virtual tools. Assessments, like in the hybrid flip, will be done asynchronously on those learning days where the students are asynchronous. That means they're not in the classroom. And so this is an opportunity for the teachers. These are opportunities for the teachers to choose one of the recommended models. And again, they would have to stick with that model through the second 9 weeks. Are there any questions? And I did want to add that we have created through the teaching and learning department videos for each one of these models. And so the first launch of the hybrid 45 video comes out tomorrow, November 13th. The hybrid flipped video will go out and be shared with teachers to give them an idea of what it will actually look like. Team members have put together these videos that will go out for hybrid flipped on November 17th, and the hybrid sync video will go out on November 20th. So our secondary teachers will be aware before they make a decision on which works best for which classes.
Any questions? Thank you, Dr. Branch.
So, Madam Chair, that actually concludes our presentation. As Dr. Rice stated in the beginning, a lot of that information was being rehashed. You have seen before. We did want to go into further details about the hybrid 3, the 3 choices that Dr. Branch described. We feel that after our teachers have an opportunity to participate in professional learning for those, as well as take a look at the 3 videos, it will help them to be able to make their choice. Main thing is going to make sure that they are communicating that not only with their administrators, but also the students and the parents. The feedback that we got from staff, from the teacher work groups that Dr. Branch and Dr. Davenport and the rest of the TNL team provided us, was they were happy that they were now being able to be giving a choice for that. And now it's really about trying to make them more familiar if the board decides to move forward with the current recommendation.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Any discussion on the Educate and Innovate fall reopening plan?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion at this time.
Yes, Dr. Bott.
Given the status of COVID at this time and the way we're moving forward, I want to move at this time the Educate and Innovate program not begin any earlier than January 4th, 2021.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second.
Ms. Gardner, you're muted.
I just want to make sure that I have that motion. And the motion was
I
that
move that the Educate and Innovate program begin no earlier than January 4th, 2021.
January 4th, 2021. Okay, you move that the Educate and Innovate program not begin any earlier than January 4th, 2021.
No earlier than January 4th, 2021.
Okay, the Educate and Innovate program not begin no earlier than January
earlier than 2021. Begin no earlier than January 4th, 2021.
January 4th, 2021.
Right, begin no earlier than January 4th, 2021.
Okay. And who second?
I
Mrs.
did.
Jenkins.
Okay. Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
No, I think we should be going back, and I think we should have the plan. And there's the majority of parents want that option, and I think we should be giving them that option. It's come up before the board twice. All the other schools are figuring out how to make it work. So I think this is disappointing. No. And I don't know what the motion means anyway, not before January 4th. So we don't have a board meeting till 2 weeks after that. So even this motion doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but nonetheless, I'm voting no.
Okay. Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Madam Chair, I'd like to, with your permission, can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Riddick.
There's a series, the reason why I voted the way I voted, I want to paint my own narrative. I don't want to be misrepresented again. I'm not voting because of how I personally feel. I did several surveys where I reached out to parents in my borough, and there was a lot of parents from other board members' boroughs who chimed in on it as well. I reached out to staff. I reached out to the Virginia Department of Health, and not just the Western Tidewater area. I reached out to the state. I reached out to the children's hospitals of the King's Daughters, and I gathered so much information. And also looking to our neighbors, I see that they went back, but they also have a lot of cases of COVID. And they also have a lot of letters going out as well. And our division is beginning to see cases of COVID go on as well. And to upset the fabric of what we're going through right now as far as virtual learning for 6 days of education, as I said in October, I can't equate the balance. Now, a lot of people would want to send children to places that they physically don't want to go themselves. I can't do that. I heard our staff, I heard our citizens, and to the parents who are and who wanted to go back, I do understand. I understand that it's trying time. However, we got to realize that normal is not going to be normal as we have known it to be ever again. So all of us is going to have to adjust. All of us are going to have to cope with some things, and there's no correct formula to it. And the other divisions may have gave in because of pressure, but I think we as the Suffolk City School Board did what was in the best interest of all of our Suffolkians today. Is everybody going to be pleased with it? Certainly not, but I believe that we did the right thing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Riddick. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Mitnick?
Yes, ma'am. I voted the way I did because I'm concerned that the COVID is on the increase. And with that, I don't want us to be starting school and then stopping school and jerking our kids around. If we hold off until January 4th, or if someone were to ask me, I would say the first day of second semester, there's continuity. And with the upswing in the number of COVID cases, it's very dangerous at this point in time. And for us to start school on the day after Thanksgiving vacation, and for our high school and middle school students to start the day after Christmas winter break, we don't know where those kids have been on those breaks and what they might be bringing back into our buildings. I just think at this point in time, it's too risky. So I asked one question on Facebook, and I asked for teachers to respond what their opinion of the hybrid learning plan was. And the overwhelming response was, don't allow us to start with the hybrid plan until after the holidays. And, I think it's safer for us to even say the beginning of second semester, and let our teaching and learning team come up with how they're going to introduce the beginning of hybrid learning, and report back to us in December or the beginning of January if we can wait until the beginning of second semester. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Anyone else?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, I am not even concerned about criticism. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't fear that because I decide who affirms me and what I care about. But I do this. I say this. I'm concerned about children and what's going on there. I'm well aware of the numbers and the illnesses that appear to be on the rise. I'm always amazed when people tell me that the school system, the surrounding school systems are all open when I'm looking at Norfolk and Portsmouth, and they're not. The school systems that are actually closest to us, Norfolk and Portsmouth, are not open. So I don't know how they get disregarded all the time, but they're not open. They're doing virtual. We have Chesapeake and Virginia Beach is actually furthest away from where we are right now. But that's neither here nor there. I'm concerned about the children of Suffolk, and they are my priority at this time. I've heard from teachers, I really have, with regard to this issue. And I said what I said because people are concerned. I don't want them to be worried about when we're going to start. And I agree with Mr. Mitnick and with Mr. Riddick, and of course, all of us have made comments and heard comments from people. We get some of the same emails with regard to people who've expressed concerns about what's going on. And as Dr. Gordon mentioned earlier, we get those same letters about what's happening with COVID. And every time I get an email about something, there's a breakout at some school or somebody's got it, whether it's adult or child or whatever, I'm concerned about it. And this is serious business. So I don't want us to rush into something, and nobody's going to push me into rushing into something that I don't feel comfortable with. I'm going to go with the science and safety, and that's where it's going to be, because I believe that we can catch up with anything else. We have done it over the years. When I joined this board, how many schools were not fully accredited? And we went to a place where we were fully accredited with millions of dollars in scholarships. So I know we can do whatever we need to do when the time comes. We will do whatever we need to do, and I'm not worried about that at all. Thank you for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So I want to make sure that I'm clear, just so our entire school community and anyone who's watching understands the specifics of Dr. Buck's motion that was approved and how the school division will more than likely move forward. The first thing is we have to continue to reiterate this is going to be a fluid situation. So if the health data continues to move us into the red, January 4th will not be the start date for our elementary students. I need to say that publicly. But based on what was voted on tonight by the board, the T&L team and the school administrative office staff, we will plan for January 4th for pre-K through 5 to be the start date, and January 11th for secondary to be the start date. Multiple reasons why we're choosing January 11th is because the following week we have the Martin Luther King holiday, so it's a broken week. So I do not want to start during a broken week. But we also currently right now do need to get our secondary students back in because our first round of SOL testing, the first window closes on February 16th. And we have to be able to be in school to probably have the best way to get our students to take those tests. Now, I have put in some communication to the Department of Education. I had a conversation with Dr. Lane last week to determine if we will be, of all school divisions, will be able to get an extension or a waiver, since several school divisions, as many members of the board have listed, is still in the virtual setting. So that deadline of February 16th, when that first SOL testing window closes, could be extended. We just don't know that right now. So we will plan for, again, a January 4th start for pre-K through 5, a January 11th start for 6 through 12. I wanted to just make sure our school community knew that as we begin to move forward with the planning process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Mayor.
I was going to ask for clarification in regard to the dates based on the motion, but Dr. Gordon has cleared that up so that the school community will know exactly what the dates are when our students will return, provided the numbers look up to par. So thank you.
Right. All of this.
I want to ask that question, but he has cleared that up. Thank you.
Right. All of this will be determined by the numbers, the stats. Correct, Dr. Gordon?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, moving to new business. We have an update on the CARES Act and additional budget items and so forth.
Yes, this is both an info and an action item. I will turn it over to Wendy Forsman, our Chief Financial Officer, to provide the board with additional background. Ms. Forsman?
Hey, good evening, everyone. This evening, we're going to bring you information on, there's lots of money running around, lots of information on CARES Act, ESSER GEAR money, the new CRF money. We want to make sure that the board and the public are clear as to what money we have received and what we plan to do with those monies. John, the next slide, please. So the very first one is our reversion funding of $3.2 million. As you know, we went to the City Council in September and they reappropriated this money back to us. Where did it come from? Last year, the state projected that sales tax would be lower in the last quarter due to COVID-19. They projected at least a $3 million drop in taxes. That did not come to fruition. But we made plans accordingly because we did not get the information on sales tax until July. So we had to make our decisions before June 30th that we would hold this money back and not purchase school buses, not resurface tracks at the high school. We didn't do parking lot resurfacing or the scheduled middle school remodel. And we did not do the computer replacement as per our replacement cycle because we knew at that point about the CARES Act. And I'll go into that further when we get to that. John, the next slide. So how do we plan to spend this money? Well, first of all, we'd like to provide a one-time bonus to all staff for the total of $1.1 million in their December 18th paycheck. The way this would work, if full-time staff would receive $500 and permanent part-time and long-term subs would receive $250. Now they would have to have been hired before October 1st, 2020. And then employees whose names have appeared on the Virginia Employment Commission bills for the second and third quarters of 2020 would have to have those matters resolved before they would be eligible for the bonus. In addition, we have already placed our order for 16 replacement buses in the amount of $1.6 million. Those are 9 special education buses at $109,071 each, and 6 65 passenger buses at $104,179 each. As you all know, we have a replacement schedule for school buses, and we have a very large bubble of buses that'll come to fruition by 2025. We cannot afford to purchase 81 buses in a single year, so we're trying to break that up over years so that we can meet the needs of our school buses. The CARES Act came in June. We found out about the CARES Act at the regular school board meeting in June. This board approved the application that detailed the spending on the CARES Act, and what it did was we had to set aside, much like Title I funds, we had to set aside for private schools use $184,160.26, which left SPS 2.6, almost 2.7 million to spend. The deadline for spending these funds is September 30th, 2022. So we planned accordingly. Next slide. Thank you. So State Superintendent's Memo 110-20 outlined all of the ways that we could spend this money. We gave you a short presentation back in July on this, exactly what can be spent with this, but I'll just give you a quick rundown. Anything that supports remote learning through educational technology, that's hardware, software, connectivity, adaptive equipment, supporting the diverse needs of students during school closure, when they return to school, and also may include mental health services and support, provisions for meal distribution, and services allowable under IDEA, which is for special needs students. Planning for and implementing extended learning, maintaining operations and continuity of services, including continuing to employ existing staff to the greatest extent possible. So our focus in this particular one was technology. So the very first item that we put into this was devices for students, both new and replacement, of $1,450,000. Connectivity devices and monthly service costs for those devices of $173,000. Instructional software that would support instructional and virtual learning for all students, such as credit recovery, elementary reading, learning management systems, integrated assessment platforms, special education student-specific software, and 504 blended learning, and that cost was $970,170. And then finally, those disinfectant sprayers that Terry has been referring to, our facilities director, for $100,000, to come to the total for us of $2.8 million. The next set of money we received, or we were given access to, was more along the lines of a grant. We had to apply for it. It was due August 15th. We requested $1.4 million. We were awarded $440,860.71. This money, this ESSER, it's called ESSER Set Aside Gear, and it has a spending deadline of September 30th of 2021. There were 5 sections: facilities, food, nutritional services, instruction, special education, and technology. And what we received are the following. We received for facilities, for cost of disinfectant and skyrocketing cost of PPE, $61,681. For virtual instruction and pacing online, there was curriculum rewriting that needed to happen for $69,800. Software for ELL students, the amount of $30,200 for a total of $100,000 was awarded. The next was special education, their virtual therapy platform for $50,000, and then instructional tools and manipulatives for $2,605 for a total of $52,605. And then technology, as you know, we needed additional connectivity devices that cost $35,775, and then the connectivity for those devices, $190,800. For a total of technology of $226,575. So there's the total award of $440,861 under the ESSER Set Aside Gear Award. The next amounts that we received, and the next funding we received is called the Coronavirus Relief Funds, or CRF funds. State Superintendent's Memo 273-20 came out on October 9th. The expenditures must be incurred, necessary expenditures incurred are due to the public health emergency with regard to COVID. They cannot have been accounted for in the budget most recently approved as of March 27th, 2020, which means we couldn't have already planned to spend this money. It had to be money that we had not planned to spend. And the spending deadline for this money is, as you can see, very, very close. It's December 30th of 2020. That is not encumbered. It must be delivered and spent by that date. So the Superintendent's Memo 273-20 gave us some very specific things that this money could be spent for and things it could not be spent for. And I've tried to give you a rundown of those. I won't read each of these to you, but I want you to understand that it's mostly things, testing supplies, personal protective equipment, cleaning and sanitation supplies, things that we really did not have in our budget at the time that we developed our budget back in March. Technology, again, to support distance learning, MiFi devices, staffing, and when they're talking about staffing, they mean supplemental staffing costs, not planned expenses, but supplemental to those related to COVID-19 response or mitigation for a temporary period, including hazard pay or overtime to avoid layoffs and furloughs, additional staffing to support the virtual learning environment, maintain social distancing, address COVID-19 health needs, staffing for other COVID-19 related duties. Again, those are if we're bringing kids back into school. We had not planned to do that at the last meeting, so we did not include pieces for that. The next one is general across the board. One-time employee bonuses are not, they were very clear, were not an allowable use of these funds, but they did have facility upgrades and purchases that would help mitigate COVID-19, such as plexiglass barriers, wall dividers, hot water service, and other upgrades such as isolation areas to mitigate COVID-19. Again, still has to be spent by December 30th, but what you could do with that before then. Pupil transportation, such as school bus upgrades and purchases of additional buses. That's great, sounds wonderful, but you can't get buses for 6 months if you ordered them today. So we couldn't do that as part of this funding. There's an emphasis in this funding on the special student populations so that they received as much impact as possible from these funds, as well as young learners, EL students, so that we looked at that very carefully to what we could do for these students with this funding. So next I'm going to give you a line-by-line description of what has been recommended that we use this funding for. Upgrade of teacher Chromebooks. As you know, we had to upgrade the teacher Chromebooks because of the Zoom product and for teaching and learning on the Canvas product to make sure that they could do that work effectively, $861,300. We'd like to add 150 new interactive whiteboards to schools. That would be 100 at the elementary level, 28 at the middle school level, and 22 additional at the high school level for $628,200. More personal protective equipment and disinfectant supplies. These would be wipes for the classroom, gloves, the shields, and disinfectant supplies for the classrooms at $293,924. Software that helps us have virtual teachers for both semesters at $259,765. We'd like to add put 2 months of the daycare that was provided for staff for the total of $110,758. Handheld disinfectant sprayers, additional ones for teachers and staff as well, for labs and things like that. PE teachers for equipment, $80,000. Where we'd like to put hot water in student restrooms in Elephants Fork, Nansen Parkway, and Kilby Shores for $60,000. 2 additional software pieces for Legends of Learning and BookFlix for $43,734. The Zoom product that we needed to purchase for $37,319 was not planned, so it's a purchase that we can add here. Special education instructional supplies. These are specialized pens that have dictionaries in them that the teacher can do all kinds of stuff for the student. They will help the student read and they will speak to the students for $24,120. Science STEM kits for students for $9,870. Social emotional learning kits and training, additional amounts of $5,000. And then air purifiers for select classroom of $3,600 for a total of $2,417,590 for those funds. I'll entertain any questions you might have at this time.
Any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Riddick.
Okay, the first question is I'm receiving a lot of emails and messages from staff in regards to the recommendation that was recommended at our meeting prior to our work session about a $2,000 bonus. I would ask that Dr. Gordon or either Ms. Forsman could spread light into that as to why we are not able to give the $2,000 bonus that was recommended, because I have a lot of staff who want to know why they're being given a $500 bonus versus a recommendation of a $2,000.
So I'll start there, even though the SBS bonuses was actually the next item on the agenda. Main reason is we cannot afford it. And I just got to be honest and say that. We are, everyone across the state, every school division across the state is really anticipating a revenue shortfall. Sales for the entire state are down. And so we want to make sure that we're going to be conservative in our approach while still trying to make sure that we do reward our staff for all their hard work and dedication. And I want to reinforce all staff. We're not going to really try to put one group above each other because we need everyone in order to make this school division work. So the amount that Ms. Forsman and I have come up with support from the staff as we worked on this, that was the $1.1 million that you saw that we're taking from reversion funds in order to be able to provide our staff with the bonus. Now, depending on what that revenue shortfall is, after the General Assembly has an opportunity to meet for their long session in January and February, then we will take a look again to see if there's anything else that we can do. But we're not going to make that commitment at this time because we do know that the school division will have less money, the state will have less money, our local funding source, the city of Suffolk, will have less money than what they've had in the past.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe Ms. Forsman also made mention to the full-time bonus of $500 and a part-time bonus of $250. So my question is that, for an example, if a part-time custodian who is in harm's way, for the lack of better terms, they would just be given a bonus of $250. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that right.
Yes.
That's that you said it's correct?
Sir.
That is correct.
I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but that doesn't sit well with me, considering that our custodians are our frontline staff. They are in the trenches doing things that most people wouldn't prefer to do, risking their health as some of our other staff, but especially our custodians, to sanitize and make learning environments possible, to make transportation environments possible, to make meal preparation environments possible. So I don't know if it's anything we can do. I know we don't want to isolate certain groups, but in this case here, is there any way we could make sure we give our custodians a little bit more, if budget will allow us, than $250? And would it be taxed?
Of course. Absolutely, it has to be taxed. That's not our rules, those are the IRS rules. It will go in their paycheck. They would be taxed less that way than if we separate it out. If we separate it out, they have to be taxed at 25% per IRS regulation. Many of our employees are paying much less in taxes than 25%. So it does not do us any good for them to separate it out. It would go in their regular paycheck and be taxed at their regular rate.
I concur. I think that's a huge benefit. My question is it a way if we can find for our custodians at least to give them that full-time bonus rate?
I think we have to be careful because you have groups of people that are part-time, and you have to treat all part-time the same in their groups. So you have to keep them the same. If we give one set of part-time folks a different amount than another set, then we have problems there as well. So we have to be really careful with that. As far as I know, Dr. Gordon may speak to that a little more.
No, I think Ms. Forsman, is right. And Mr. Rick, I definitely understand what you're saying. We can share with the board and our school community, there were certain groups that we knew really come into contact with the general public more. And I'm going to start with food and nutrition services, transportation staff, front office staff, and the custodians for the work that they're doing disinfecting. We knew that those 4 groups were the ones that really helped to drive our numbers, because that was going to be the way that we were going to be able to incorporate everyone. Now, in the spring or later on at the end of our school year, we'll take another look. But Mr. Rick, I'm going to be honest and tell you, I have to be conservative here. We have to be very conservative here. Ms. Forsman is right. We looked at different employee groups just to make sure that we could do something for everybody. If the numbers pan out and right for us, we'll take another hard look in the spring. I just can't commit to that at this time.
I understand that. That's why I understand, but I have a different approach to what we're trying to do here. If what we're trying to do is to be fair across the board, then I feel it should have been a flat bonus rate, whether it would have been $300 for everyone. Everyone would have had the same amount. But when we say part-time staff, and the part-time staff is doing a great deal of the work, and we're only rewarding them half as much as that bonus, that don't sit well to me. It's our part-time staff who are not paid as much as some of our full-time staff who could really utilize the bonus. I'm pretty sure everyone could utilize a sizable bonus, but that's just the way I'm thinking about it here. If possible, if there's additional funds, I would request, and I don't mind going on record, but those 4 areas that you mentioned, I would like to see that next time that they are on the receiving end of a larger size bonus than what they're receiving now.
Okay, Ms. Rick, we can take a look at that. And then whenever it comes time to make that recommendation, we'll definitely keep that in consideration. But, I just got to be honest and say, it's really about the grade level of the employee. You're kind of referring a little bit more towards hazard pay, which is something that Ms. Forsman and I kind of discussed, but we'll take a look at it, and then we'll basically let the board know probably in a couple of months of some ideas that we may have centering around that.
Any other questions? This is an action item, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Buck.
I move that we pay these bonuses to our employees as recommended.
A second.
I'm sorry. Are we on item 1 or item 2?
Item 1.
Yeah, we're currently on item 1.
Right. We need a motion to approve the use of the CARES Act and so forth.
I'm sorry. Item 1, I move that we approve the update of the CARES Act, the ESSER and GEAR, and the CRF additional budget 2020 and 2021. Pardon me.
I second the motion.
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next, we have Suffolk Public School bonuses. This is an action item.
Madam Chair, since we've already discussed this, we don't really have anything to add from Ms. Forsman or myself on this matter.
Okay, could Ms. Forsman review the way the bonus will be given?
Yes, ma'am. The bonus will be received in the December 18th paycheck. Full-time staff will receive $500. Permanent, part-time, and long-term subs will receive $250. The employee must have been hired on or before October 1st, 2020, and employees whose names appear on the Virginia Employment Commission bills for the second and third quarter of 2020, their money will be placed in reserve until those issues are resolved with the Virginia Employment Commission. And that's pretty much it. It's $1.1 million.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we give the bonuses to all SPS employees as outlined by Ms. Forsman.
Second. Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
I'm voting yes, but I want it noted that I would like for them to receive all equal amounts.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes. Again.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next item on the new business is request to increase substitute teacher pay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll tee this up for Ms. Forsman, but it's our goal to increase the overall substitute teacher pay from $88 a day to $100 a day. We'd like to use it not only to bring us up to speed with the rest of the region when it comes to substitute pay, but also to provide an additional incentive so that we can have more substitutes readily available for whenever we return to school in January for our Educate and Innovate plan. Ms. Forsman, if there's anything you'd like to add to that, feel free to do so.
These would be our degreed substitutes that are currently receiving $88 a day.
So I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Story.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we, some of the substitutes and we looked at the surrounding districts, and we're still the only one who has left a difference between having a degree or not. The only differentiation that other systems have is once it's a long-term position, then there is a differentiation between having a degree or not. And I think at this point, I think we should sort of come in line. We need to have all the subs on one level. Really, with the type of work we're doing these days, it does not matter, except it would matter for long-term with the degree. So I think that's another reason we're losing subs to other districts, is because we don't have this differentiation between those who have a degree and those who don't. And if we don't put the two together here for just a typical sub day, I'm not sure that we're going to, I'm not sure that it's going to make the kind of difference that we would like. So if Ms. Forsman, I think we should collapse the scale here and give one flat fee for all substitutes. And then if it's a long-term sub, because that's a longer time in the classroom, then we could differentiate between having a degree and not.
Any other discussion? Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we move all sub pay to the $100 a day, irregardless of whether they have a degree or not.
Is there a second? Yes, not a second, so the motion fails. Any other motions?
Madam Chair.
Oh.
Yes, Mr. Mitnick.
I move that we approve the increased substitute teacher pay as was proposed.
Second.
I'm sorry, who's second?
Second. Board Member Riddick.
Thank you. Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next, under new business, curriculum and instruction updates.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to turn this over to Dr. Davenport, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, to provide a curriculum and instruction update to the school board and community. Dr. Davenport?
Good afternoon, school board members. I'm going to let Mr. Littlefield set up my presentation. I'm coming to you this evening with two bits of information. The first is an informational item, and the second will be action items. The first are the revisions to the grading regulations. As you recall, in the fall, there was discussion about revising the grading regulations to lower the number of required assignments for each of the levels, grades 1 through 12. And what we did was we proposed multiple ways of doing this to the staff, and principals went to their staff and received feedback as to which ones teachers felt would be the best. And so from the feedback that we received, what we have proposed and will be revising in the regulations will be what you see here. So we have lowered the number of assignments in grades 1 through 2 in order to accommodate for the virtual environment. And if you look on the next slide, please. Grades 3 through 5, we proposed reducing the number of test, quizzes, classwork, and homework for grades 3 through 5. Remembering that in grades 3 through 5, these will be tied in directly to each subject area. So remembering elementary school teaches every subject area. So we would lower this across the board for all subject areas in grades 3 through 5. Next slide, please. In middle school, we would lower the number of classwork and homework and quizzes. And then in the 4th 9 weeks, reduce the classwork grades by 1 due to SOL testing. During the SOL testing window in May, students are often pulled out of regular classes to attend the SOL test. So we lower the number in the 4th 9 weeks due to that. Next slide, please. And then for high school, grades 7 through 12. And of course, these are high school courses, and we do have high school courses that run at the middle school. So that's why you see grades 7 through 12 there, because this category would apply to all high school courses. The proposal is to reduce the test grades by 1 in the 4th 9 weeks and to reduce classwork and homework and quizzes by 1. And that was just an informational item. But I do want to add that in the spring, we are looking at a full revision of the grading regulations and adjusting not just the category weights and the number of assignments, but looking at the grading system as a whole and getting feedback from teachers in the community with regards to that. For your action are 2 requests. The first is a request of the waiver to waive the community service learning graduation requirement. This is a local requirement that students have for seniors to graduate. We're asking that you waive that for this year's senior class due to the closures. Next slide, please. And we are requesting the elimination of midterm and final exams for all high school level courses. And the main reason we are looking at doing this is because of we are desiring to focus on continued student growth and mastery of skills. And we're pushing teachers to use more common assessments and smaller assessments. That way they can continue to adjust their instruction. We also want to reduce the number of high stakes tests that are given. Many of our students also take the PSAT, SAT, ASVAB test, AP Advanced Placement test, International Baccalaureate test, and industry credentials. And so we wanted to reduce that number of standardized tests. Additionally, we want to eliminate any kind of grade deflation that may occur due to one test at the end of a semester. Between midterms and finals collectively, that would account for 14% of a student's final yearly grade. And so we wanted to eliminate that. And lastly, we wanted to eliminate the need for multiple instructional days that are dedicated to midterms and finals. As you know, in January and then at the end of the year, we have multiple half days that are designated as exam days. And eliminating midterms and exams would also allow us to free up those instructional days and to potentially make them full days in those time periods. Are there any questions?
Any questions, anyone?
Yes, I'd like to know, are we voting on these separately or is it one big package?
To answer that question, Ms. Story, the grading regulations change because it's a regulation, it's an info item only.
Okay.
The board will be voting on the community service requirements and the midterms and final exams recommendation.
So the final exam recommendation is, will that be separate then from the first item you mentioned?
From waiving the community service graduation requirements?
Yes. Yeah.
If that is the board's desire, that's a possibility. That would be up to the board, but we link them both together because it's still part of the overall presentation.
Well, I would appreciate if they would be separated. I think one is different than the other. So I'd appreciate voting on them separately.
Do you want to make a motion?
Well, how does the rest of the board feel about voting on them separately? I mean, waiving the requirements for the service, is something much different than waiving final exams midterm. I just think they're two very different entities. If we could vote on them separately, I would appreciate that. What does the rest of the board feel?
Any other comments? Mr. Mitnick?
With Ms. Story, I'd like to see each item voted on separately.
I don't mind voting on them separately either, Madam Chair. Right.
So make a motion and we'll vote separately if that be the will of the board.
I move. Well, Ms. Story, you want to make the motion?
You may, Dr. Buck.
Okay. You want the, I move that we separate the community service graduation requirement and the final exam action, that we separate approval of the community service requirement and the midterm and final exam action and vote on them separately. That's a motion. Second? Anybody second it?
I second it.
Okay, board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
That we approve the waiver of the community service graduation requirement for the 2020-2021 school year.
I second.
Sorry, I didn't pick up second.
I second it.
I'm sorry, is that Dr. Buck? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second.
And that was the request for the approval of the waiver for community service graduation requirements?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, please vote. Board Member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board Member Mayo?
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board Member Riddick?
Yes.
Board Member Story?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I would like to make a motion that we do not eliminate midterms and final exams for the high school level courses.
There's a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. And that motion is to not eliminate midterm and high school exam for courses.
Yes.
Board members, please vote.
Excuse me, the motion was to eliminate.
Okay.
No.
No, she wants
No,
us
it
not
was
to.
not. It was to not eliminate. I can rephrase it if you want.
That's okay.
I made the motion to not eliminate midterms and final exams. But we can vote on it the opposite way, I guess. Just thought it was.
That's okay. I have the motion to not, I'm sorry. To
I'll
not.
state it just as it is. How about if I just reframe the question? I'll state it exactly as it's written. Make them, well, I can't do that because that's not the motion I want.
That's okay. Your motion is to not eliminate midterm and final exams for courses?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Minnick second.
Is that what he want a second?
No, he doesn't want a second. Listen.
I'd like to remove my second.
Okay.
Perhaps one of the ways to deal with this is either to have a motion to accept the recommendation or to reject the recommendation. Because if you have a motion to accept the recommendation, then they are waived. If your recommendation is to reject the recommendation, then they continue to take midterms and finals.
I just think that our teachers, you know, when it.
Madam Chair, why can't we just vote on the motion as it is? This is confusing.
I don't
Madam
think
Chair.
I don't
Yes.
think Mr. McNick, did
Mr.
you
Reddick?
second my motion?
Madam Chair, thank you for recognizing me. I would like to move that we accept the recommendation to waive the midterm and final exam.
I second.
Okay. Board members, please vote. And the motion is you move to accept the recommendation to waive the midterm and final exams.
Yes.
Okay. Board members, please vote. Board member Jenkins?
Yes.
Board member Mayo?
Yes.
Board member Mitnick?
Yes.
Board member Riddick?
Yes.
Board member Story?
No.
Vice Chair Brooks Buck?
Yes.
Board Chair Byram?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, next, any more information on grading regulations? Dr. Gordon?
Oh, ma'am, that was covered in the presentation. We just wanted to separate it out.
Okay, we finished on what we need on that. Okay. Madam Clerk, I believe we have public speakers on non-agenda topics.
Yes, ma'am, we do. Would you like for me to read the statement again?
Yes.
Okay. It is the intent of the school board to ensure that the affairs of the board be conducted in an open and orderly manner, that all persons desiring to address the board are afforded an opportunity to do so. Any persons addressing the board shall, 1, confine their comments to matters germane to the business of the school board. 2, refrain from words or statements which from their usual construction and common acceptance are construed as insults intend to incite violence or breach of the peace. 3, refrain from obscenity, vulgarity, or other breach of respect. 4, comply with the time limit for public comment as set by the board, which can be up to 5 minutes, unless the board, through the exercise of its discretion, decides to allow less than 5 minutes for public comment. 5, refrain from cumulative or repetitive remarks. And 6, refrain from making any comment regarding any pending student discipline or employee grievance matters. The appropriate forum for such matters is the applicable administrative hearing provided by state law or where appropriate court proceeding. The school board welcomes comments from the public as appropriate. Board members will listen to public comments but will not comment unless granted permission by the chair. The chair or presiding officer shall preserve decorum and shall decide all questions of public order, subject to appeal to the board. At the request of the chairman, a city police officer shall act as sergeant at arms at all board meetings. That officer shall, under the direction of the chairman or other presiding officer, have charge of the board chambers, the board conference room, the waiting areas and corridors adjacent thereto, and the school administration building, and shall prevent disorder or interruption of the business of the board.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I believe we have a letter from Mr. Colby Miller.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Gordon, Chairwoman Byram, and staff. By this point, you have likely already voted on whether or not to allow in-person learning in our school division. I'd like to take this time to remind everyone that just a little over a year ago, the big discussion at the time was the fact that Nansemond River High School was and still is over capacity, and whether or not to allow mobile units behind the building. The thought of mobile units were struck down at Nansemond River due to an impending division-wide study that no one in the general public has heard about since. Now, flash forward a year later, and somehow we plan to socially distance 6 feet apart in a building that's already tight for space with no mobile units to take additional space. Nansemond River High School has had to get creative with adding additional lunch times, sharing classrooms, and more to account for the lack of space that we somehow want to socially distance within. But tonight, I'd like to ask the board members to consider this. Could a board member possibly make a motion or at least start the conversation to move the new high school in the CIP from the 10-year mark to further up in the list? It doesn't have to be next year or the year after that, but I think it's time to at least move the high school up the list to allow time for phase financing of the building. Suffolk is the fastest growing city, not only in Hampton Roads area, but one in the fastest growing in the state. And it's upsetting that a school division our size and geographic makeup has only 3 high schools serving the city. Again, it doesn't have to happen overnight, but it takes time to move the new high school further up in the CIP, as was done a few years ago with the planned downtown elementary school. In a booming area like Northern Suffolk, it's time for us to stop cramming our children in Nansemond. I hope a board member will be able to address this and consider moving the new high school up from the 10-year mark and start planning for a problem that's already knocking at the door. A new high school has been last on the list for at least a decade, if not longer, but now it's time. Large-scale apartments, complexes, and new subdivisions are popping up everywhere from Route 17, Shoulders Hill Road, and many more are in the pipeline just waiting to rise. Where will these children go? Nansemond River can't handle anymore. It's time to push up the new high school and the CIP and give relief for the overburdened Nansemond River High School. With Mayor-elect Mike Duman pledging to make schools a priority, long gone may be the days of city council saying they don't want to entertain this idea. It's surely what people want in the community and definitely what the students and faculty at the school needs. Please consider pushing a new high school up the list on the CIP and was done with the planned downtown elementary school a few years ago. Sincerely, Colby Miller.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Any more letters?
Yes, Madam Chair. Yes, Madam Chair. We have one letter that was actually missed from earlier.
Okay.
A deputy clerk will read that one as well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. My concern was in reference to the reopening of the schools, but I've been told that there's an option to continue virtual learning. If that's the case, that would be my choice. I'm raising my 3 grandchildren with my daughter, who is a quadriplegic, who's been on a ventilator twice. I cannot risk her health and most definitely not her life. My grandchildren are 6th, 7th, and 4th grade honor students. I appreciate being given the opportunity to express my concerns. Thank you, Katrina Cotton.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Okay, and moving on, business by board members. Ms. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I just want to give a never-ending thank you to Dr. Gordon, his team, and the whole entire Suffolk Public School staff for doing what you do, and you do it well, and that you represent Suffolk Public School well and keep us on the map. I get your emails, I have your calls, and I hear you. And I know a lot of teachers are concerned about their safety. And that is my priority for the students, the teachers, and even going home, carrying something to the household. And that's why I vote the way I vote. It's not that I don't care about the kids learning or going to school. I care that they live long enough to be in school when it's the right time to be in school. I'm excited about the grant that was given so we can keep educating for the mental health and for our students with special needs, because that is also a priority working in that field. I know how important it is to be able to service everyone, keep everyone safe, and do what needs to be done in that area. I also want to highlight and congratulate all of the alumni students as well as our current students who were highlighted tonight. You all make us proud, and I know that the ones that we highlight are not the only ones that's doing great things with Suffolk Public Schools. And I encourage you all to just think safely, do whatever you need to do now so we can do what we need to do later, what we want to do later. And that's all that we're saying. I'm glad that we were able to give something to our teachers as a raise. I know it was brought forth that we should give a whole lot more, but we have to look, working in finance, you have to look at what you have in your pocket. If you don't have it, we can't give it, but it's not saying, like Dr. Gordon said, further down the road, there could be something else. So I appreciate Dr. Gordon and Mrs. Forsman for doing what you have done for our teachers. You are worth a whole lot more than that, but this is what we can offer right now. And I hope that everyone is appreciative to what we are able to give at this time. Thank you, board members, for us coming together and making decisions. We're not going to always agree on everything, but we were elected to serve and serve the best to our ability. We're not going to please everybody, but we make our decisions based on being led to do what we feel is the right thing. And I appreciate you all, and have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Mitnick?
Yes.
Mr. Mitnick?
Mr. Minnick, you're muted.
I'm trying. Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
All right, the first thing I'd like to do, when Ms. Ward was reading the names of our athletes who were succeeding, she mispronounced the name of Brandon, and Brandon's last name is Lau, as in wow. And I know his parents will be happy to hear that. Dad is a teacher at Nasman River High School, and I'd just like to make that one correction. As I do every year, I'd like to thank our veterans that are Suffolk Public Schools employee. As a fellow veteran, I know what you've sacrificed in your life, and just like to say, I hope you enjoyed your Veterans Day holiday, and please stay safe in the future. And I'd just like to wish all of our employees and our families a very happy Thanksgiving coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Ms. Mayo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As always, I would like to thank our wonderful SPS family, Dr. Gordon and his wonderful team, and all of those administrators, school administrators, of course, our teachers, our support staff, and all who do a phenomenal job, our transportation, food service, custodial staff, bus drivers, everyone. We are grateful to you and for all you do for our students. And I would like to say that I'm very pleased that our school community has been made aware of the dates for reopening our schools for in-person learning, if that is possible, because I think that's very important, because much planning and needs to go into that. And then as as well as the persons, the lives of our families, and they need to know this. So we're grateful for that. I'm very proud of our SBS alumni who are doing well, and the good news reports. That was wonderful, and I'd like to thank Ms. Ward for doing that. It's always good to know that our alumni are doing well, and we are very proud of them academically, athletically, or in their careers as they move on. Again, I would like to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving and to stay well, stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mayo. Mr. Riddick?
Yes, I would just like to tell all of our Suffolkians that are listening and at home or that may view this at a later time is that, we thank you for giving us an opportunity to serve. This is uncharted waters. No one has ever went through this before, and we are building as we are flying, and I believe we're doing a great job. I want to say thank you to Dr. Gordon and his team for the outstanding job that you all are doing to gather all of the information and data that we need to make an informed decision. I also want to say thank you to our frontline personnel, our employees, those custodians, the teachers assistants, the cafeteria workers, just to name a few, who are going above and beyond to allow us to continue to build the best SPS. Because truly, it does take a team for us to do this and go forward. But I do implore all community stakeholders, our churches, our Greek organization, our social organizations, we are in need of you to step up and help with tutoring and volunteering and mentoring. There are some children who may need some additional help. If you are interested in doing so, please reach out and service those who are in your community. This is how we take down this elephant called COVID and the impact that it has on our educational system. And we have to do it one bite at a time. And that's my recommendation on moving forward with that. But I also want to say thank you to Kingsford Middle School for the wonderful face mask that they gave me. I thought I had it with me, but I didn't. Our students and our teachers are going above and beyond. And I really look forward to what 2021 will have in store for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddick. Ms. Story? Ms. Story?
I just wanted to say to the parents out there, many parents and teachers who wanted their students in school, at least to have the choice. To those parents whose the burden has become very, very great. To the special ed parents and special ed students who we are not accommodating by getting them back. Like many, many parents feel their students need. To the students who are very depressed and are not liking school these days, I'm very sorry that we're not back. I think that we could have done it. To me, I don't understand, but I tried. And I think you know that. I hope that you are able to find ways to accommodate your children so that they don't turn off to education, because that's a very sad thing to read about. The majority of you wanted the students back, and we certainly did not listen to the majority, but and I think we should have. I think Dr. Gordon and the team could have done this. I think they could have done it months ago. And for me, the choice should be a parental choice. And I'm sorry that we did not move on that. Whether I think it's very unfair to say and to put out there that we're trying to kill a child or we need the child alive to get back in school. That just crosses a line. No one's trying to do that to anybody, but parents are the guardians of their children. and we have not given them a choice to come back to school and be educated. Many teachers would like to return, and I think we could have tried to accommodate both, as many districts are trying to do. And so I agree with those parents. I agree with those teachers. I think we should have done this, but obviously very obviously, I'm not even close to in the majority of thinking that our students need to get back into school, need that routine. And I wish we had done it. Have a very happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and enjoy family. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Story. Dr. Buck?
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity, and I want to thank the staff that's working really hard to do all that you can do for SPS. I had the opportunity to attend and help the Suffolk Public Schools Health Advisory Board get started, and it was just a great meeting. We started the meeting, and of course, when we started the meeting, you know, you don't really realize all of the things that our staff members are doing in addition to their everyday duties. Oftentimes you don't know all of the things that they're doing in addition to the things that they do on a regular basis with their jobs. But with this chance, I got the opportunity to see some of the things that they were doing, and got a chance to listen in on some of the things our health, our physical education folks are doing, just to keep things going in the our nursing staff, just to keep things going in the school system. And just listened in, and I was just amazed at some of the extra things that they were doing in our wellness, with our wellness program, with our nutrition program, with our just normal, our school nurses, and just all of the kinds of things that they were doing. And I was just so pleased to be a part of that, and thank them, of course, for what they were doing. They got started this week, and our parents and students and folks who are working with that advisory committee. So I was really pleased with them and what they were doing. And of course, with the whole staff and everybody else, I can just ditto what everybody else is saying about what we're doing in the Suffolk Public Schools. I'm very glad to be back. And I just want to say to those folks who have done some extra special things, I want to say thank you to Mrs. Byram, Ms. Jenkins, Delegate Jenkins, Mr. Riddick, Ms. Mayo, and to a former board member, Ms. Diane Foster, who just made a special effort to help me. I just want to say thank you as you helped me come back to the school board. And it doesn't cost anything to say thanks, but thank you guys for all that you did. And to Louise Lucas, and to Linda Johnson, and to Councilman Lou Ward, thank you all for what you did, organizations and groups. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Suffolk Education Association, the Suffolk teachers. Thank you, because they've supported me every time I've run for office. And I just appreciate that. It's nice being a teacher and being supported by teachers. So thank you guys for everything. And I'm glad to be here and glad to be with you and working with you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Buck. First of all, I'd like to say kudos to the nutrition team for thinking up the Nourishing Our Neighbors. I think that's a wonderful thing. We've started first at Booker T. Washington Elementary, but I know it's going to spread to other schools in the district and the city. That's an excellent program, and I'm glad we highlighted that, because I think it was well received, and I think it's something that was much needed at this very critical time. I will especially thank Ms. Forsman and her team. The report she gave to us on the CARES Act and all the funding the hours and days compiling all of those things so that we could be successful to get those grants and to be timely in securing those funds that are much needed to move us forward in these difficult times. I really want to thank you, Ms. Forsman, and your team for leading us in that, along with, of course, Dr. Gordon. Also, I want to say a special thank you to all the employees. I know everyone is doing as much as possible. Everybody is working 100% and more. And I know we're going to be successful. This is a difficult time, but we are always very strong in this system. Our employees are our backbone, and we know that. We, of course, voted to give you a bonus, and we wish it could be more. As we've stated, we hope in the future maybe there will be funding available. But we just want to let you know that we do appreciate what you're doing. If we had the power, we would probably give you thousands of dollars, but we cannot do that. We have to be frugal. And I admire Dr. Gordon and Ms. Forsman for being frugal and watching those funds, because we do not know what will happen in the months to come. And last, I'd like to thank those people in the Waiver Borough, who, my constituents who supported me in the recent election and returned me to the school board. I thank you for your vote of confidence. And next on the list, we have informational items. Are there any questions on those? If there are no questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good night.